The sponsor for this podcast is Blevins Insurance, and here's what their customers have to say. Great insurance rates and customer service. We'll search for the best possible rates through many insurance companies. For more information, go to blevinsinsurance.com or call 765-446-8999. Mindful Businesses with Vidya Iyer from the recording studios of Q1067, Lafayette, Indiana. In our podcast, we bring to you brands which are mindful in their practices and processes. Mindful businesses, simply put, is sustainable, social, economic, and environmental practices adopted by a business. We have with us Susan Correa, founder and CEO of Art and Eden. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you for having me.
I came across your brand and I was very impressed with what you offer. Can you tell me a little bit about how it began? What inspired you to start a clothing brand for children using organic cotton?
So I've been in the business of fashion since over 2 decades. And prior to Art and Eden, I was leading 2 multi-million-dollar businesses. I've built global businesses across the world, India, Europe, Canada, and the United States. And I really was not searching to start a new business. I was very set in my professional career. I was, however, searching for a deeper meaning to life and to figure out what on earth was I put here for and how I could make a difference. And that journey led me to a school in Bangalore, India, to sponsor a meal program for children in need. On this long trip to India, I was reading 2 very powerful books. Mm-hmm. One was Seth Godin's Linchpin, mm-hmm. and the other was Jim Collins' Good to Great. And Good to Great was a very easy to understand business model. You've got to be best in the world for business to be a global brand. But what really intrigued me was Seth Godin's book, Linchpin. And he spoke about a new way forward for business, one that built something that was best for the world. He spoke about a journey of an artist that would undertake the journey of bravery, passion, courage, and put their best gifts into the world and let the universe then work on reciprocity. I was very, very intrigued about this idea and never had once stopped to think about what best for the world meant. And so started a journey of really trying to deep dive as to how business could be better, how could we build better for the world. And I spent 2 years thereafter really trying to figure this word for as it related to my business. And after going through endless amount of reports, I recognized that something had to change very quickly in the business of fashion, and Art and Eden was born from there.
So how and why is your brand sustainable? Like what practices have you put in place to make it sustainable?
So as I was searching as to how business could be better, I chanced upon the book Cradle to Cradle by William McDonough and Michael Braungart. And I was incredibly intrigued with the idea of not settling with the business, not settling with business as a model where we considered being less bad as equal to good, but really trying to reimagine how the design process could be thought through from the start to the end. So you embrace triple top line thinking rather than bottom line accountability only, and then have to deal with end of pipe business initiatives, but really trying to figure out how to start the design concept right from designing to process to packaging to people to planet. How do you consider all pieces of sustainability? So from the economic viability to social and environmental concerns, how do you integrate all of that into your business model? I exited 2 multi-million-dollar businesses to start this new way forward and embrace all of sustainability's pillars as the fundamental DNA of our business.
And what would you call those pillars? What are the pillars in your mind?
Business fundamentally exists to be economically viable. If you don't have a viable business, you cannot do any good in the world. So fundamentally, to build a business that is economically viable, but to manage the business for social and environmental concerns as well. So to make sure that the product is not damaging the environment, and then as a business to assume responsibility towards community as well.
Mm-hmm. So I was reading up, and they say that the clothing industry is one of the most polluting industries in the world, like the second most polluting industry. I think I came across that on your website. What is the basis for that, and why is the clothing industry how does it pollute so much? I would have imagined some other industries to be more polluting. And why is the clothing industry more polluting?
So Eileen Fisher was one of the pioneers of the sustainable fashion journey in women's wear in the US. And when she was receiving the Ecological Award for her contribution to sustainability, that was her opening statement, that I'm receiving an award in the second most polluting industry of the world. I think because fashion's production cycle is so long and so spread out that the entire impact that it has on the environment gets masked in the finished product, because we've got to remember that the process starts from how the seeds are grown. Then you have all of the spinning, weaving. Then you have the dyeing. Then you have the water wastage and the water pollution. So I think fundamentally through the whole process, with the intensity of the use of insecticides and pesticides, we are polluting every life-giving natural system, air, land, and water, with the waste of the industry. So when I read that cotton, which is naturally portrays the image of being a natural fiber, occupies 3% of global farmland and uses 25% of the world's pesticides and 16% of the world's insecticides. These were facts that just stopped me in my path to race, to produce more units and really try to figure out a new way forward for business.
So how do your brands or your manufacturers, how do they conserve water, energy? Tell me about the seeds they use. How do they do that? How do you oversee that they are achieving your vision?
So in spite of the fact that I had spent 2 decades in the business of fashion, it was starting Art and Eden was like starting from ground zero. I had to relearn the entire process of production because everything else was speed to market and fast fashion. And this was a whole process of slowing the whole concept down so we understand what we're doing and its impact on everything that surrounds it.
Say we just take the seeds. How are your seeds different?
Basically, it starts with the organic cotton process. It's how do you work with conventional cotton versus non-conventional, which is organic. So it's starting with the right seeds. Everything is certified by GOTS, which is the Global Organic Textile Standard. So we start with making sure that the seeds are purchased from GOTS approved manufacturers. They are manufactured in a process that is approved by GOTS. So there is no use of insecticides and pesticides, but all natural tilling and farming processes are used. From there, it goes into GOTS approved spinning and weaving capacities. And then it goes into the dyeing mills, which are, again, GOTS approved. So the entire value chain is approved and certified by the Global Organic Textile Standard. So every piece of the chain is documented.
And how do you enforce this? Like, you have these standards, and how do you have inspectors there on site? Or does GOTS have inspectors? Or once a factory is GOTS certified, they have these standards that they have to follow?
We engage GOTS certifiers. It's a third-party audit. This is not our area of expertise, audits and the full value chain. So we have to rely on professionals who do this for a living. So before we engage with the factory, we have them set up with a GOTS auditor and GOTS organization. GOTS basically then enters into their entire value chain, start to finish, checks the processes. Sometimes the factory does not meet the expected standard of GOTS, and then we're given corrective action procedures. So the factory has to reset their processes and then have GOTS back for the audit to complete it. And once GOTS approves the entire value chain from start to finish, they give us a certificate of approval. Then post-production, we have to document the entire journey, where we bought the yarn from, that we bought it from a certified supplier, that we dyed it in a certified mill, and then we get a transaction certificate, which basically authenticates the process.
So was it hard to find such suppliers, or you found regular suppliers who were not up to standard, and do you train them to GOTS standard?
For the start, one of our founding partners is one of the biggest suppliers into the United States and was fully approved on many different levels as well as GOTS, and we got started off the ground with that. But as we grew the business, we had to grow the factory base as well. So there were some factories that were already GOTS approved and some factories that we had to initiate the process with.
So you also talk about dyes. Tell me something about your dyes. that you use on the children's clothing?
There are many different dyes. Basically, there are conventional dyes, which are synthetic and chemical based, and are used with most conventional cotton. And I didn't see the complete logic of having fabric that is organically made and using conventional dyes. There are then natural dyes, which are made out of herbs and fruits and teas and clays. But they have very, very limited color options. And it was really important for us to maintain the vibrancy in the children's clothing, because at the end of the day, every parent also wants their children to look very special. So GOTS has approved a standard of dyes called low impact dyes. These are also synthetic dyes, but they are approved by GOTS because they do not have the intensity of chemical and synthetic components that conventional dyes has. Even as a low impact dyes, it's not ideal. But the other option is vegetable dyes, where you get only 4 colors. So the dyes we use basically are all low impact dyes. They do not include any of the azo components. There are no high toxicity in the dyeing. So it's basically a set of dyes and a set of companies that make these dyes that GOTS has approved that we use on our clothing.
So one of the things that I looked and found in the clothing industry was, in the children's clothing industry was, they used harmful chemicals in the flame retardant clothing that the children's clothing were supposed to have. They were supposed to help children if they fall asleep and there's a fire in the house, and especially if the clothing was loose fitting. Do you have any such issues with your clothes, or do you address that problem of it being needing to be flame retardant? And I know the industry changed the standard. Are the standards still the same, or have they changed regarding flame retardant children clothing?
Sometimes we try to address one problem and we create another problem. One of the things as to why flame retardancy was mandatory was because there are certain type of fabrics that catch fire very quickly. So in order to protect, it was done with the intention of protection. But the fact is that flame retardants, they are substances that are added to combustible materials that help provide safety in one way to the fabric, but are full of retardant chemicals that basically have other issues with skin sensitivity and things like that. With Art and Eden, we use only 100% cotton right now, and we don't have the requirement to use that on our fabric. So I don't deal with that issue at all, because the kind of clothing and the kind of fabric I use doesn't require flame retardancy to have been applied to the fabric.
And let's talk a little bit more about your mission. You said you want to give back. How does Art and Eden give back?
So part of embracing all 3 pillars of sustainability is our responsibility towards the society. We've embraced 2 programs. One is a global impact program where we have committed and delivered 1.5 million multivitamins to children across Central America. We've also donated 7,000 doses of albendazole to these children. We also run a local mentorship program right here in Newark in New Jersey. It's a school of 627 kids, about 80% of which are below the poverty line. And we mentor a group of the kids. We bring them to New York City. We offer them different experiences. We take them to different museums and just offer them different kinds of experiences that enhance their worldview. Newark is 20 minutes away from New York, and some of these kids haven't even been to New York City. So it's very special for us as a team to be able to do this and really make a difference to the community we live in.
So you do something overseas and something local. Many businesses focus so much on giving back overseas, they sort of forget to see the struggles that children have just in their neighborhood. And I think that's a very good thought that you have there. The sponsor for this podcast is Blevins Insurance. Blevins Insurance specializes in putting together packages for your home, auto, life, and business insurance needs. They are backed by multiple reputable insurance carriers. Blevins Insurance is great at identifying potential gaps within your current insurance policies. They are licensed to serve insurance in multiple states, including Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. For more information, go to blevinsinsurance.com, BLEVINS insurance.com. Your products, I saw they were whole range of products. What are the age range, and they are for both boys and girls, or?
Yes, we do from newborn to the age of 12, and we do both genders, girls and boys.
Are your clothes very specific pink for girls, or are they gender neutral? How are they?
We do a girls and boys line, and we do a gender neutral line.
Because many times I think there is waste also. When talking about sustainability, we also talk about waste. So if you have a son and then you cannot use those clothes for a daughter, you have to go out and shop again. So I think part of sustainability should be that it could be reused for the next child, because the children wear these clothes for a very short time. And this way, you also are saving the environment by being able to reuse the clothes. Yeah. And I also noticed that your prices were reasonable for everything that you're achieving, everything that all your mission, you're trying to make it from really good quality cotton. How do your prices compare with, say, another brand which is not organic and a brand which is organic?
That's very interesting, because when I started this whole journey of wanting to embrace sustainability as a business model, I read a number of reviews by moms on sites that were offering organic clothing, and all of them said, why does it have to be this expensive? Children are, like you said earlier, children are going to be in and out of this so quickly. Why does organic have to be something that is, so highly priced? And that was something very important to me as I started this journey, to make sure that I figure out the whole value chain in a manner that does not make it so unaffordable or affordable to only a small group of people. That was my mission from the day I started Art in Eden. I also have a very strong production background. I was a production solution from the top tier stores down to discount retailers before I started Art in Eden. So I have a very strong production and process background. And I think by virtue of having a very strong investing team on board our journey, we were able to manage for economies of scale and were able to build very efficiently.
So most businesses, if they are efficient and they are mindful about having their costs low, and then they will be able to pass on the savings to the consumer. So I did see one more thing. You also have something about endangered species. What is that?
We recognize that Art in Eden, we live very interdependent lives, and the human species is one of millions of species that inhabit the planet. It was very important for us to understand and embrace this, as we are so close to the earth in everything that we do. A lot of our graphics are very animal-centric, and it was one of our dreams to be able to partner with either Nat Geo or Discovery or Animal Planet, or someone that really embraces the whole ecosystem. And it was really, really cool when Discovery reached out to us for a partnership. And we did this entire partnership with them that brought awareness to endangered or vulnerable species. We launched it in 2019 of spring, and it was really a delightful collaboration to have.
Do you recycle the clothes? I know some of the brands now, they say, bring back your clothes and we give you 10% off. Do you do any of those programs?
So I spent 6 months before I started Art in Eden to make sure that I worked on the fabrication that we're working on. So it's not like fast fashion where you wear it a couple of times and you throw it. As you said, sustainability, how do you have multiple uses and multiple people using the clothes? And while maybe a girl's garment can't be transferred to a boy's sibling, it can be transferred to a cousin or to someone else in need or someone down the line. But we make sure that we tested our fabric so much that the sustainability piece keeps on extending into it. We have just started our business. We're just 2 years into the make. We have not yet done the reuse program, but we are looking at different models of how to continue making sure that our impact transcends the multiple uses of the clothing.
Talking about multiple uses, have you heard about the business Rent the Runway?
Yes, I have.
There is a similar one for children, and their slogan also is sort of sustainability, because they think that the kids, especially 0 to 2, they wear each set of clothing for very few months. So they have a similar model where they send you a box of washed, reused clothing every week, or I'm not sure what the different plans are, but I was wondering if you had heard about them.
I haven't heard about the children's. I've definitely heard about Rent the Runway and other models in the women's area, but I haven't heard about. Do you know the name?
I will try to find it for you. I was thinking also about the wages. There's always this, even like big companies even with all their inspectors on the ground, sourcing agents on the ground, overseas, fall prey to unethical practices on the part of the suppliers. How is yours different? How do you assure that the workers do receive their wages, they have their rights, they have bathroom breaks, they get, time off, health benefits? How do you assure all those things? Or does GOTS take care of all that?
GOTS is one piece of the business. So GOTS is basically the sustainability value chain. We're very fortunate to have a really, really good group of factories that we're working with and who pride themselves on the way they treat their labor. So I had someone who was working with me who has a very intense background in social justice, who fundamentally believed that business could not be good. Business basically succumbs to many failures. So I sent her on a trip to India, and I said, you know what? I would like to substantiate your belief one way or the other. If you feel that business fails humanity and their workers, or if you feel like we're trying our best to make this work, why don't you go? Here's a ticket. Go without anyone from the Art and Eden team, and you come back with your report on the factories. And her report is part of our 2018 impact document, uncensored. I published her entire report, and if you download it from our website, it's her entire report on the factories is listed. How she went in as a skeptic and came in seeing that business can be good.
Yes. Was her name Nandita?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, yeah. Yes, I think I saw that, yeah. Yes, that's what led me to the question to see, to find out how exactly you do monitor and...
We can't monitor everything and we can't enforce everything. We rely on third-party audits. So when you have the ratings and audits of multiple third parties verifying you for environmental compliance, verifying you for social compliance, worker rights and worker work situations have become top of everyone's priority right now. And the audits are incredibly strict. They do random audits. They just come into the factory unannounced. They pick up workers from randomly from the floor and interview them anonymously. So that they can really, really verify the whole process. And our factories are open doors for auditors to walk in and verify what is being said and what is required to be delivered by the audit is done, because their certifications are also important to them. So it's an open, transparent opportunity for people to go in and audit.
And your factories are based in which country?
In India.
And one thing, whenever many people in the United States hear about things being made in India or Bangladesh, they think about child labor for some reason. And that's one of the top questions. So are you sure there are no children making my T-shirts? And I'm pretty sure that you've made sure that in your supply chain, there are only adults who are working and making your your clothes for the children to wear.
I think that was a notion of the past. I think child labor laws are very, very strictly enforced, and lots has changed since those very, very early days. So I do not believe, whether it's in my factories or any other factories, I do not believe I have ever seen a child working in a factory in the years that I have been in business in India, even at the time prior to Art in Eden, I have not seen child labor in factories. I think it's become very stringent and people are very, very aware of the repercussions of engaging with child labor. So I think it's very stringently executed. You don't see that happening anymore.
So what are your future goals? Are you going to just stay with children's clothing? Are you going to expand to some other industries, maybe diaper bags?
Art in Eden was born from a desire. It was born from the 2 books that I read. How does business be best in the world? By fundamentally focusing on being best for the world. I see Art in Eden become a global brand. I see it being a trusted place where parents can come and shop when they want to buy remarkable clothes that are responsibly made for their kids. So I see it expanding into a marketplace for goods that parents and loved ones can trust to buy things for children. I do not see us expanding into men and women's right now. I think there's so much to be done. We've taken a really good leadership position in standing for sustainability and embracing it in all of its components. And I just want to keep focusing and building on this path that we're on. It's just an amazing path and incredibly fulfilling for me and the team.
So how big is your team?
We're a group of about 9 people right now.
And you're the sole founder. It was your idea. It was your vision to come up with this.
There's never one sole person in anything that's built. I have an incredible group of investors, almost like co-founders that have built this company with me. I have an amazing gentleman called George Herdina. He's the ex-global president of Ralph Lauren, who reached out to me post seeing a podcast that I had done and has embarked on this journey with us to help build Art in Eden. I have Charlotte Taylor-Wright, who is an amazing managing director of sales for North America. So my entire team, my design team, my branding team, I mean, everybody has played a part. I am one piece of the whole part.
So where can one purchase these awesome coats for their children?
So we are available with Nordstrom's, with Neiman Marcus, with Von Maur, and in about 200 stores, specialty stores across the country. We are available on artineden.com, and all of the stores are listed on our website as well.
Thank you so much, Susan Correa, for joining us today. We were talking to Susan Correa from Art in Eden.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
If you're a creator or would like to recommend a mindful brand to be featured on our show, send us a message on our Facebook or Instagram page. Thank you to Jim Stone of Q1067 FM, playing the best of yesterday and today, for letting us use the studio for recording this episode. Thank you, Ryan Martin, our technical editor. Music for this podcast was composed by Tatum Gale. This is Vidya Iyer for Mindful Businesses.